family, Tom Thayer. You said you were doing some work around the house on the bye week. How was it?
It's going good. Almost finished. Super excited about it.
You put a new roof on? What's going on?
I went with James Hardy siding because I've been in this house for 63 years. I've been in this house my whole life.
Beautiful.
And so my dad did most of the work as we were growing up, and he probably sided it 45 years ago.
Right.
And it got to the point where it was either going to get it done or it was going to fall down. So super excited about that. But I've been listening for the last 10 minutes, and I feel a hell of a lot smarter listening to not only the geography lesson, but also a cable attachment antenna. And I got a cable appointment tomorrow, and I've got a lot of questions I'm going to ask these guys for you.
Are you aware of this?
He's out in Joliet then, right?
I know, yeah. Tommy's in. Are you aware of what's going on? Like, if you want to watch the Bulls and the Hawks, if you don't have DirecTV, are you aware of what's happening?
Yeah, I tried to go. So the other night when the Bulls were on, because the kid was coming back, Lonzo.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to see him, man. I'm really pulling for this guy in the the modern science miracles that can happen and all that kind of stuff. And so I checked out a couple different ways to try to get in touch, and I had no luck. So I figured I'm out of luck.
Get ready to buy one of these antennas, and hopefully it works. Ask the cable guy when he's there. See how it goes. So Jaden Daniels got hurt on Sunday, and I don't know. It probably, if we had to all guess right now, I think we'd say he's not going to play this weekend. Do you feel like it robs us a little as football fans, or do you say, you know what, take every little advantage you can get, so be it, and you roll into this game having to play their backup? How do you look at it?
Well, that's why they put it to an afternoon nationwide audience, because they wanted to see Jaden and Caleb play against each other. There is ways of numbing that area depending upon if it's a rib cartilage or a rib or what's the extent of the injury. So, I think it's kind of a test and a challenge to Jaden of how badly he wants to play and what pain he's willing to go through in order to get it numb enough to play. And I guess we'll see a lot of what's happening. But listen, I want the Bears to win another game. So, if Jonathan Allen's not there on the defensive line, that's on injury reserve. I don't care about that.
Yeah.
Whomever else isn't there, I'm about the Bears going into kind of an ugly environment in Washington. They have a fan base that's loud, and Yerk, you probably play in the old stadium when they used to have the metal bleachers where they used to stomp on the bleachers, and that's all you could hear. Now it's a little bit different, the noise in there.
I've heard that stadium's not a great experience, though.
Well, the FedEx Field now?
Yeah. It's something different now. I can't.
It used to be RFK, but whatever.
FedEx Field, whatever it's called now.
We're talking about the monstrosity that Daniel Schneider built.
Yeah. I've heard it's not the most pleasant place. Just
the broadcast booth is the worst.
Is it?
It's one of the worst because they built the seats up so the people are so high right in front of your view that you can really see the back of their head and their shoulders while you're trying to look through them to see the game. And the angle of the broadcast booth is at the corner of the end zone. So the opposite corner is almost unseeable at times. And so, it's just not the greatest. It's not as bad as Miami Dolphin Stadium, but it's second worst in the league.
So Jaden or otherwise, if it is Mariota, just bigger picture stuff here about this Washington offense, maybe, Tom, and what you've seen. I don't know how much you're still planning to watch or what tape maybe you've already seen, but it looks different in terms of what we're used to seeing out of Cliff Kingsbury's offense. And I know they've always gotten off to fast starts, and then they've sort of slowed down in the back halves of seasons. But even now, with how explosive they're being, it looks more structured than I think it did when he was in Arizona. Like, are you seeing differences, and did he tweak some things in his offense to make it more explosive?
Well, I kind of think he tweaked what Jaden Daniels has been able to do, because you kind of don't know what he's going to be able to do coming in at the beginning of the season. And then you're starting to feed him some information throughout OTAs and training camp when you're only really going about 70%. And then you have to see what can he do when it's real deal football during the regular season. And he's complemented his athleticism to how it fits into the offense, how it's not like watching the Ravens last night when they got 5 or 6 different guys and they got a running back that's a Hercules. They got a quarterback that's as athletic as anybody is in the league. Here it's Daniels, it's Robinson, and it's McLaren, and sometimes Ertz. It's not like you have, 10 or 12 weapons that you have to pay attention for. But when you look at Jaden Daniels, and he's the second leading rusher on this football team, I guess you do have to be concerned about your rush responsibility, not giving him in a pocket to escape to. Understand that if McLaren is covered, he's still going to throw to him. So it's those little things that kind of factor in that the way you play up front and on the back end. And like Jurk said, with a couple of defensive backs being injured, you hope that all those guys are healthy so you have a full complement of players.
Absolutely. And I guess you do lose something, obviously, in the scrambling ability and just the unbelievable athletic ability and to assist their run game. If Daniels doesn't play, this team is so far and above better than anybody else through 7 weeks, even the Baltimore Ravens, in terms of expected points produced via their ground attack. I knew we knew Jaden was a tremendous athlete. I don't know if anybody could have expected that. Just how good the interior of their O-line has played, how much push they've gotten, and how dynamic their run game has been. More than just Jaden Daniels. I mean, they've really found themselves a lot of success running the football this year.
Yeah, Brian Robinson, Austin Eckler, they got guys that do it. Jaden Daniels has 372 yards rushing with his 1,400-yard passing. But, so if Jaden Daniels doesn't play, I think you still have to be suspicious of Marcus Mariota, because here's a guy that knows he's not going to be the starter. He's not going to be the future of the Washington Commanders. But, man, if he can, keep this team going on the level from the quarterback position and the athleticism and the willingness to run and all that, he can still be a weapon for them. So he's not looking, oh, God, I got to be ready for 17 games. I may have to be ready for 2 games. And that's sometimes as scary as if you have a guy that thinks he's going in for the remainder of the season.
Yeah. Did you find the offensive line finding a little bit of rhythm now?
For the Bears?
Yes.
I do, Jurk. The stability on the inside 3, and I don't know what Ryan Bates is going to contribute when he gets back, if he's going to be involved in the mix. I like what they got out of Bill Murray when he did have to come in and play. I still, I don't want to ignore the fact about the offensive tackles, Jurk. I wish they had more of an anchor where it was come out of my set, 1, 2, bam, punch, create a stalemate, because to me, you're still forcing Caleb to play with a little peripheral vision enclosure. And I wish it was more where they could really escort the outside rushers to the far deep outside and give them a little bit more freedom and time to make the decision. So that's something that I'm going to kind of pay attention to the whole game and the whole rest of the year. Jurk, I'm curious about this and you. You got Montez Sweat. And so Montez, you got some rookies up there. You got a guy, Allegretti, who's brought in here, but you kind of know that offensive line a little bit. If you're a Montez Sweat, do you pick and choose who you want to rush against, or do you kind of designate one guy and I'm going to spend the whole game against him?
That's a good question.
I have a feeling he's going to want to go up against who he's most comfortable going against.
Like, is that a side?
Whether it's left or right, it's one of those sides, and then he wants to concentrate on being on that side.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. When I was watching the Kansas City-San Francisco game the other day, that Chris Jones went against everybody but Trent Williams.
Mm-hmm.
So he feel that, he's got a winnable opportunity against them. So I am interested to see not only how Montez plays against their offensive line, but how the Bears offensive tackles. And one thing you guys I'm really interested in. And so the Bears played at home, then they played 2 games on the road. Now they basically have 3 home games because it was more of a supportive crowd in London on behalf of the Bears than it was Jacksonville. So this is the first time that you're going in and having a nonverbal cadence in Washington and maybe in Arizona, but I think Arizona will be a Bears supportive crowd. So can you stay on the rhythm? Can you stay in the tempo that you were able to when you were in control of the cadence at the line of scrimmage, and how that affects the offensive tackle position? So I think that's something we'll have to pay attention to.
Can that, in terms of what you were talking about, the tackles sort of with that anchor, Is that just because, as Jurko always says, sometimes guys are a little light in the ass and they just don't have the physical ability to do it? But can it be taught? Is there technique that can go into that where you can get to that point where that anchor is better that you're talking about?
Well, you have to have strength, confidence, first of all.
Yeah.
And, and that's one thing you got to go, okay, if I can boom, stab at the defensive end that I'm playing against, and I can create that instant of stalemate before I have to regroup.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that they're both young guys, and they both have to be able to continue to get stronger throughout their career, and maybe they develop it in a year. I don't know if it's something that you want to suffer through over a 5-year period where it's kind of, closing in on you about that 3/4 of a second half faster than you want. And when you look at the passes of production from the London game, the longest that Caleb held onto the ball was 2.39 seconds. And the luxury is about 2.75 seconds of the lengthier routes in a longer amount of time. So Caleb is complimenting them by getting the ball out of his hands as quickly as possible. But you would like to live in the luxury of when you play Minnesota in Minnesota, Green Bay in Green Bay, and then Detroit on Thanksgiving Day, that, man, our tackles can withstand the abuse of the outside rushers and give Caleb that half second more time that you're asking for.
Who's the best team in the NFL through 7 weeks?
I think the Ravens.
I'm kind of with you.
I think with Derrick Henry, the dude is amazing. You look at him, how big he is, how fast he is, how powerful he is. He caught a pass last night for a touchdown. I think he can be incorporated in the offense a little bit more. But it's a thing that I think John Harbaugh is trying to save him for the playoffs, so they're not overusing him like last night when he sat out almost a full quarter.
Yeah, he didn't have many carries at the half. What was it, like
No.
four carries at the half or something, or 5?
But I think it's a smart thing.
Yeah.
Nowadays in the NFL, if you're going to have, go to him exclusively as the conditions deteriorate and you start approaching the playoffs, that's what I think they got him for.
Tommy, great stuff as always, buddy. We'll be listening on Sunday. Enjoy the game. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, thanks, you guys. See
you,
ya.
buddy. There's Tom Thayer every single Tuesday with us here on Carmen and Jurko. He's joining us on the CarX Tire and Auto Guest Hotline. Henry's at 134 carries on the year so far, Jurk.
They're pacing him.
Has 25.
Yeah, they're pacing
Lamar's got
him.
73. Yeah, they're pacing him.
Yeah,
How many targets does he have? Derrick Henry only has 9 targets, too. He's got 7 catches on 9 targets.
Yeah, the big one yesterday.
He is now, you said yesterday, your bet, and it hasn't happened in almost 15 years, but your bet would be Derrick Henry at 60-1 for MVP. He's now 40-1 after last night.
Yeah.
He's gone over 130 yards rushing in 4 of their last 5 games. Derrick Henry is now on pace, York, for 2,120 rushing yards. Now, if he hits that mark, he would break Eric Dickerson's all-time single-season rushing record. Of course, Eric Dickerson did it in 16 games, not 17. That is important to note, right?
Right.
But Eric Dickerson holds the all-time record, 2,105. So as of right now, Derrick Henry is trending, again, 1 extra game, but he's trending for 15 more yards. Of course, no player has ever gone over 2,000 yards rushing twice in a career.
He would be the only one.
He would be the only one. Now, Jim Brown played mostly 12-game seasons. 12-game, not even 14, OJ, we don't have to say too many nice things about OJ, but as a football player, OJ once rushed for 2,000 yards in 14 games. That's crazy. Not 16, 14.
14 games. Yeah.
That's crazy.
That is crazy.
You do have to keep that in mind and in context, but he's right now trending to be the only guy to do it. And granted, if he plays all year, it would be 1 extra game.
And he would probably do it in the least amount of carries. Maybe they ran the ball more when Jim Brown and those guys were there.
They probably ran it 40 times
But
a
even
game.
at 134 over 7 games, is that how many they played? 7 games? But that's less than 20 a game. That's 19 a game. That's not a lot.
It's probably less than like the Dickersons.
The guy that's going to stop him from doing that is going to be John Harbaugh.
Yeah.
The same way Jim Harbaugh stops touchdowns in San Diego from winning games.
Yes, or LA.
The way he does that, the Chargers. I forgot to see. I made a mistake. Chargers. That's the guy who stops the Chargers. I mean, wow.
Yeah,
that was woeful yesterday.
Well, I mean, please, almost, borderline unwatchable.
They've got no receivers, but they don't plan on winning this
That's
year.
the problem. That is part. I should say that is part of the problem.
They don't really. You didn't replace your wide receivers. You really didn't. What are you going to do? Oh, my God, look at that. That's just pitiful. 22 rushes, 59 yards.
Yeah, it's pretty bad, right?
A lot of yards passing to everybody in the world. 0 touchdowns. 0 touchdowns. No touchdowns.
No touchdowns.
Doing a great job
kind of
down
a
there.
bore fest,
Yeah.
The other game
5 for 5
was so great. 41. I don't know. I guess you like what you like. I don't know. Some people might like that. The more defensive taffy pull. I don't know. I like 41-31. I thought that was fun.
Kyler Murray with the touchdown, and I don't know who had Greg Dortch.
None of us.
There's only 2 touchdowns in the game.
None of us
Dortch.
had Greg Dortch. It's Carmen and Jurko. We'll be right back.